It was a typical fall afternoon in East Harlem. Cool breeze, golden sunlight, and the usual hum of subway chaos under Lexington Avenue. At the East 125th Street station, people were just trying to get through their day. One of them was a 31-year-old man aboard the Uptown 6 train. Maybe he was headed home. Maybe he just wanted some peace. But he was about to make a decision that would turn an ordinary ride into something disturbingly unforgettable. At around 4:30 p.m., the man did something risky. He moved between subway cars while the train was in motion. A little-known fact for non-New Yorkers: riding between cars isn't just dangerous, it's illegal. But still, people do it. Some for thrills, some for space, and apparently some for bathroom breaks. Yep, witnesses later said the man appeared to be defecating between the cars just moments before he fell. Yes, seriously. In one of the most densely populated cities in the world, he chose the gap between two moving train cars as his makeshift restroom. That's not bold. That's bizarre. Then, disaster struck. As the train was pulling into East 125th Street, he lost his balance, fell to the tracks, and was struck by the train as it continued to leave the station. The impact was fatal. He was pronounced dead at the scene. No chance to save him. The MTA and FDNY quickly confirmed the death, and a wave of confusion and fear spread across the platform. But wait, it gets weirder. Just 20 minutes earlier, in a completely separate incident on the very same platform, a 50-year-old homeless man nicknamed Frenchie emerged from the tracks, bloody, disoriented, and seriously injured. He had no idea how he ended up there or if he'd been hit by a train. Frenchie was bleeding from a massive gash on his butt, a broken pelvis, and other injuries. Somehow, he climbed back onto the platform like a subway war veteran. He was taken to Harlem Hospital, thankfully in stable condition. Two bizarre incidents: one station, one day, and, according to police, no connection. Just a tragic coincidence that had commuters and cops alike scratching their heads. The chaos wreaked havoc on the entire subway system. Northbound trains were rerouted. Passengers were trapped underground for nearly an hour, and frustrated riders poured into the streets. 17-year-old Angel Torres summed it up best: "I was scared." The man who died wasn't officially identified, but his story quickly spread online, not just because of the grim details, but because of how surreal it all was. It wasn't a fight, a push, or a robbery. It was just a man, a dangerous habit, and one tragically bad decision. Still, beneath the shock and social media memes, there was a human being, someone with a story, a past, and likely a family that loved him. Accidents like this are strange and haunting, but they remind us how fragile life is, and how quickly it can be gone. May he rest in peace, and may we all think twice before riding between subway cars. The story of Garry Hoy is one of those strange and tragic cases that sticks with people not just because of how unusual it was, but because of how quickly a moment meant to impress turned into a fatal mistake. Garry Hoy was a well-respected corporate and securities lawyer at the Toronto firm Holden Day Wilson, known among colleagues as intelligent, passionate, and maybe just a little theatrical. Garry had one party trick that stood out from the rest. He would throw himself against the office windows on the 24th floor to show how sturdy and unbreakable they were. No, seriously, he actually did this, and for a long time it worked. Garry wasn't being reckless just for laughs. He genuinely believed in demonstrating the quality of his office building. The windows were made of tempered glass, and he had performed this stunt multiple times before, bouncing off them like a rubber ball while everyone around him gasped in shock. It became his signature move during office tours, especially when new articling students were visiting. To Garry, it was part science, part confidence, and all showmanship. But on July 9th, 1993, something went horribly wrong. That day, Hoy was giving a tour to a group of law students, proudly showing off the office space and explaining what it was like to work there. In classic Garry fashion, he decided to pull out his famous window stunt because what better way to say "welcome to the team" than flinging yourself against a pane of glass 24 stories up. He ran at the window once. It held. He did it again, and again the glass didn't break, But this time, it didn't need to. The entire window popped out of its frame, and before anyone could react, Garry Hoy fell to his death. It was a surreal moment. The glass didn't shatter. It was still intact, just no longer attached to the building. Engineers later confirmed that the window itself was strong, but the frame wasn't designed to withstand repeated human impact. It wasn't supposed to be tested like that, and the mounting system failed under the stress. The fallout was heavy, not just emotionally, though that was devastating enough for his co-workers and the students who witnessed it, but also professionally. The firm Hoy worked for, Holden Day Wilson, was already facing internal issues. His death brought a great deal of negative attention to the firm, and just a few years later in 1996, the firm shut down entirely, marking one of the largest law firm collapses in Canadian history. To this day, the story of Garry Hoy is often cited as a cautionary tale, sometimes in safety training, sometimes in law lectures, and sometimes on TV shows like Mythbusters or 1000 Ways to Die. But behind the dark humor that occasionally surrounds the retelling, there's a sobering truth. Even intelligent, capable professionals can make fatal miscalculations. Garry Hoy wasn't trying to be reckless. In his mind, he was showing confidence, reliability, and maybe even inspiring the next generation of lawyers. But he underestimated the limits of the materials and the unpredictability of physics. His story serves as a strange and sad reminder that boundaries, even those made of glass, are there for a reason. And maybe, just maybe, office windows should be admired from a safe distance, not used as personal trampolines. On August 3, 2019, an ordinary day in El Paso, Texas, turned into a heartbreaking tragedy that shook not only the local community but the entire nation. What started as a regular shopping trip to a Walmart store quickly became a nightmare when a gunman entered the building and opened fire, killing 23 people and injuring dozens more. This was not just a random act of violence, it was a deliberate attack fueled by hatred, targeting the Hispanic community in a city known for its rich cultural diversity. The shooter arrived at the Walmart armed and ready to cause harm. Before the attack, he posted a manifesto online that expressed hateful and racist beliefs, revealing that his intent was to carry out a mass killing motivated by white nationalist ideology. This made the incident not only a mass shooting, but also an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime. The fact that someone could plan and execute such a violent act based on racial hatred sent shockwaves through the country and prompted widespread condemnation. The scale of the tragedy was immense. 23 innocent lives were taken that day: mothers, fathers, children, and grandparents. People who had gone to the store to shop, work, or simply spend time with family. Many others were left injured, some critically. The physical and emotional toll on the victims' families and the entire community was devastating and long-lasting. For many, the day remains a painful memory, a reminder of how quickly life can change in an instant. What followed the attack was a powerful display of resilience and solidarity. The city of El Paso, instead of falling apart under the weight of grief, came together to support one another. Community leaders, first responders, and volunteers worked tirelessly to provide aid, comfort, and resources to those affected. Vigils and memorials were held, where people gathered to honor the victims and stand against hate. The unity shown by El Pasoans inspired many across the country and demonstrated the strength of community in the face of tragedy. The shooting also reignited national conversations about gun control, domestic terrorism, and how to prevent such acts of violence in the future. It highlighted the urgent need to address the root causes of hatred and extremism in society. Lawmakers, activists, and citizens debated policies to improve background checks, restrict access to certain firearms, and enhance mental health services. The incident exposed gaps in security and raised important questions about how to balance constitutional rights with public safety. While the tragedy exposed deep wounds, it also brought out inspiring examples of courage and kindness. Stories emerged of strangers risking their own safety to help others escape the shooting. First responders acted quickly and bravely to save lives, and communities across the country showed support for El Paso through donations, messages of hope, and calls for change. These acts of bravery and compassion were a silver lining amid the darkness and demonstrated humanity's ability to rise above hate. In the legal aftermath, the shooter was arrested and charged with capital murder and hate crimes. The trial served as a reminder of the consequences of such violent actions and the importance of justice for the victims and their families. It also brought renewed focus on the broader issues of domestic terrorism and hate-based violence, pushing for stronger preventative measures at every level of government. The El Paso Walmart shooting is a painful chapter in America's ongoing struggle with gun violence and hate crimes. It serves as a solemn reminder of how hatred can tear communities apart, but also how resilience and unity can help heal those wounds. Remembering the victims and learning from this tragedy is essential in the effort to build a safer, more inclusive society. It challenges us all to reflect on the values we hold and the kind of communities we want to create. In the end, the story of El Paso is not just about loss, it's about the power of people coming together to fight hate with hope, violence with kindness, and despair with determination. It's a call to action for everyone to stand against hate in all its forms and work toward a future where such tragedies become a thing of the past. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Astoria, one of those breezy New York days where the sun hits just right between the rows of low-rise buildings and elevated train tracks. For 31-year-old William Olbris, everything seemed normal. He blended in with the crowd on the Manhattan-bound N train platform at Broadway and 31st Street, just another strap hanger waiting for his ride. But what happened next would turn that ordinary day into something disturbingly unforgettable. Eyewitnesses say William stood calmly, eyes fixed on the horizon as the train approached. Nothing seemed out of place until he walked toward the first car, bent down, and did something that made hearts stop. He placed his wallet gently on the platform. Then, without hesitation, he jumped. The southbound N train roared into the station at just the wrong second. A sickening thud echoed through the air, silencing the usual screeches and hums of rush hour. Onlookers screamed. Some froze. A few turned away. The impact was so brutal that parts of William's body fell onto the street below the elevated tracks. It was sudden, shocking, and undeniably gruesome. Emergency crews from the NYPD and FDNY rushed to the scene within minutes, but there was nothing they could do. William Olbris was pronounced dead instantly. Cleanup and investigation forced the N line to shut down temporarily, leaving confused commuters stuck and station workers visibly shaken. Police didn't find a note, but the wallet he left behind seemed to say everything. It was almost like he wanted to be found, to be identified, to make sure someone knew it wasn't an accident. But that's not even the strangest part. Roughly 30 minutes before the jump, William posted one final, cryptic tweet. "It's time to pay the price." Attached was a short, bizarre 15-second video. Blurry, shaky footage of what might have been a train platform, quick cuts, dim lighting, and eerie silence. It gave off the kind of unsettling vibes that leave you with goosebumps and more questions than answers. No manifesto, no farewell message, just those 6 haunting words and a glitchy video that quickly went viral. The internet did what it always does: speculated, dissected, theorized. Was he battling something? Was it a statement? Or just a final, fragmented cry for help? What makes William's death so bizarre isn't just how it happened. It's the deliberate buildup, the eerie foreshadowing, and the eerie calmness before the tragedy. Most suicides come with warning signs. William gave the world one final puzzle to piece together. His family later broke their silence. Through tears, they described William as creative, sensitive, and always deep in thought. "An artist of emotion," one cousin said. They said he struggled silently and hoped his story would open conversations about mental health, especially among young men. So, what began as an ordinary afternoon ended with a haunting tragedy and a powerful reminder. Even in a crowded city of millions, some people feel completely alone. Rest easy, William. You mattered more than you knew. In the world of ice hockey, where flying pucks, high-speed chases, and clashing sticks are all just another day at the rink, no one really expects tragedy to strike mid-game. But that's exactly what happened on October 28, 2023, when 29-year-old American hockey player Adam Johnson tragically lost his life during a match between the Nottingham Panthers and the Sheffield Steelers at the Utilita Arena in Sheffield, England. Johnson, who was playing for the Panthers, suffered a fatal neck injury when he was accidentally struck by the skate blade of opposing player Matt Petgrave during what seemed like a routine play. In the blink of an eye, the match came to a horrifying halt, and the packed arena fell into stunned silence. It wasn't just a freak accident, it was a wake-up call for the entire sport. The footage quickly went viral, and as the hockey community processed the shock, questions around player safety took center stage. For many fans and players, Johnson wasn't just a talented athlete. He was a reminder that even in a game as rough and tumble as hockey, some dangers are simply too great to ignore. In the weeks that followed, authorities launched an investigation, and Matt Petgrave was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, an unusual move in professional sports, and one that sparked heated debates. Was it just an accident? Could it have been avoided? Was there any intent? After an extensive 18-month investigation, the Crown Prosecution Service concluded in April 2025 that there was not enough evidence to pursue criminal charges. The decision brought a mix of relief, sadness, and a renewed focus on what really mattered, preventing something like this from happening again. The response from hockey organizations around the globe was swift. The English Ice Hockey Association made neck guards mandatory starting January 2024. USA Hockey, not wanting to be caught unprepared, followed up by requiring neck protection for all under 18 players and officials from August 2024. The International Ice Hockey Federation also mandated neck laceration guards in all competitions, including the Olympics. The American Hockey League joined in too, mandating cut-resistant neck protection for everyone on the ice beginning in the 2024-25 season. Even with these moves, not every league was quick to act. The Elite Ice Hockey League, EIHL, where Johnson had been playing, stopped short of a full mandate, instead strongly recommending neck guards, leaving the decision to individual players. Many welcomed the new safety rules, but others worried about comfort, visibility, or whether these changes would fundamentally alter the sport. But for most, the memory of Johnson collapsing on the ice was enough to erase any doubts. In the months following his death, tributes poured in. The Nottingham Panthers retired his number 47 jersey, ensuring no one would ever wear it again. A memorial plaque was placed at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham, a quiet, powerful reminder of a young man taken far too soon. And while the legal side of the story has now closed, the emotional impact is still fresh. Players, coaches, and fans alike have all been forced to reconsider just how dangerous the sport they love can be. Johnson's death wasn't just a headline. It became a symbol, a call to action, and a pivotal moment in hockey's ongoing evolution. His tragic passing prompted more than just rule changes. It reminded everyone that behind every jersey number is a human being, and no goal, no victory, is worth the loss of a life. While the game of hockey continues, faster and harder than ever, it now does so with a little more caution, a little more protection, and the memory of Adam Johnson skating silently in the minds of those who lace up their skates. Black Friday, the annual festival of discount madness, where people set alarms for ungodly hours, camp out in parking lots, and go from zero to linebacker the second those store doors swing open. But in 2008, what was supposed to be a day of bargain hunting turned into a tragedy that made everyone stop and ask, when did shopping get this dangerous? It all went down at a Walmart in Valley Stream, New York. The date was November 28, 2008. The time was just before 5 a.m. The scene was utter chaos. A crowd of more than 2,000 shoppers had gathered in the freezing dark, buzzing with the adrenaline of snagging big-screen TVs and kitchen appliances at rock-bottom prices. Tensions were high, excitement was boiling over, and the store doors were not strong enough to hold back a full-blown human tsunami. Among the Walmart employees that morning was 34-year-old Jidimitai Damour, a temporary maintenance worker. He had no idea that his job would place him at the epicenter of a stampede. When the sliding glass doors finally gave way, cracking under the literal pressure of hundreds of eager bodies, the crowd surged forward like a tidal wave. People were not walking in. They were charging, shoving, pushing. Damour was knocked down and trampled, and despite desperate efforts from other employees to help him, the crush of people was too intense. It was pandemonium. Police officers and emergency responders tried to reach Damour, but even they were overwhelmed by the crowd. To make things worse, a pregnant woman and several others were also injured in the stampede. What was most shocking was that some shoppers reportedly got angry when told the store was closing due to the fatal incident, as if a man's life had somehow become a mere speed bump on their way to a half-off blender. Damour's death, caused by asphyxiation from being crushed, sparked nationwide outrage. The idea that a young man could lose his life over retail deals hit hard. Questions flew. Where was the crowd control? Why were proper safety measures not in place? When did saving a few bucks become more important than basic human decency? Walmart faced lawsuits, public backlash, and serious scrutiny. Critics slammed the company for not providing adequate security or planning for such a massive turnout. Damour's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, and government agencies began reevaluating how retail giants handled major sales events. The incident was not just a freak accident, it was a wake-up call. Since then, retailers have made efforts to better manage Black Friday crowds with more organized lines, ticket systems, increased security, and even staggered door opening times. But the memory of that morning in Valley Stream lingers, a sobering reminder that unchecked consumer frenzy can have real human consequences. Because behind every deal is a worker setting up shelves, a person standing by the entrance, someone just trying to do their job, and no one, absolutely no one, should lose their life over a sale. It was a cool Sunday night in Queens, and for most people the weekend was winding down. School loomed ahead, and the city's heartbeat thudded steadily underground. For two girls, just 13 and 12, it seemed like a harmless thrill ride. A stunt, a moment of rebellion. They boarded the 7 train at Flushing Main Street, unaware that they were about to make their last stop. The 13-year-old, whose name was not released due to her age, was subway surfing. Yeah, you heard that right, subway surfing. That insane trend where kids literally climb on top of moving subway trains and run, or jump between cars, like it's some kind of IRL video game. Only there are no extra lives here. The girls clambered to the top of the train as it rattled westward through Queens. It's not clear how long they stayed up there, but as the train approached the 111th Street station in Corona around 11 p.m., things took a deadly turn. The train came to a stop, but the sudden jolt was too much. The girls lost their balance. One fell between the cars and under the train. She didn't survive. The other girl was critically injured, suffering head trauma and brain bleeding. She was rushed to Elmhurst Hospital and intubated, her fate hanging in the balance. It was a night that began with adrenaline and ended in tragedy. For their families, it was a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. And here's the thing, this wasn't even the first time. In fact, it was the 6th subway surfing death in New York City that year alone. Just a week earlier, another 13-year-old boy fell to his death while pulling the exact same stunt at the Forest Avenue station, also in Queens. It's become a horrifying trend, fueled by TikTok, Instagram, and the illusion that likes and followers are worth risking your life. What makes this case so bizarre isn't just the death itself, it's the fact that even after it happened, witnesses reported seeing more kids doing it again the very next day. Same station, same tracks, same game of chance with a train weighing hundreds of tons. Despite what the NYPD says about increased patrols and drone surveillance along popular subway surfing routes like the 7 Line and the J Line, the problem seems to be growing. Even Transit Chief Joseph Galata admitted that stopping the trend is proving difficult. "We're hitting social media hard," he said, putting out videos with parents, showing the effects. The effects? Let's talk about them. Shattered families, traumatized commuters, and kids with futures cut brutally short. MTA board members are now pushing for more than enforcement. They want outreach, education, real talk from real people who teens will actually listen to. As board member David Jones put it, "You feel invulnerable at this time in your life. We have to have people in their world telling them, no, this is not the way." And maybe that's the heartbreaking core of this tragedy. It didn't happen because of hate or crime or malice. It happened because a kid wanted to feel alive, wanted to be seen, wanted to go viral. Mayor Eric Adams summed it up with a sobering truth: no post is worth your future. As for the family, they're left with memories of a bright young girl whose life ended far too soon. Friends lit candles, left notes, and posted tributes online. One message read, "Fly high, angel. You were too bold, too beautiful for this world." And while her story ends in heartbreak, maybe it can also be a warning, a message louder than the rumble of any train. You don't have to risk your life to matter. You already do. In 2022, a tragic accident at a foundry in Mapleton, Illinois, reminded everyone how crucial workplace safety truly is and how quickly things can turn devastating when it's overlooked. Stephen Dirks, a 39-year-old melting specialist with only 9 days on the job at Caterpillar Inc., lost his life in a horrific incident that shocked the community and raised serious questions about industrial safety standards. Stephen's job involved working with molten iron, liquid metal heated to temperatures soaring above 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the kind of heat that instantly melts almost anything it touches, creating a dangerous environment where one wrong step can be fatal. On June 2, 2022, while performing a routine task of taking a sample from a furnace, Stephen fell into an 11-foot deep vat of molten iron. The impact was instantaneous and deadly. He was incinerated immediately upon contact. This was no ordinary workplace accident. It was an event that could have been prevented. Following an investigation, the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, found that Caterpillar had failed to implement required safety measures around the vats of molten metal. There were no guardrails or restraint systems in place to protect workers from falling into the molten iron. This glaring absence of fall protection exposed employees to a life-threatening hazard that should have been carefully managed and guarded against. As a result, OSHA cited Caterpillar for a willful violation, which is a serious charge indicating that the company knowingly ignored safety regulations. The company was fined $145,027, underscoring the gravity of the oversight. This incident also cast a spotlight on ongoing safety concerns at the Mapleton foundry, as it was the second fatality at the facility in just 6 months. While the numbers and legal actions are important, it's essential to remember the human story behind this tragedy. Stephen Dirks was more than an employee. He was a devoted partner to Jessica Sutter and a father to 3 daughters. His obituary described him as a hard-working teddy bear of a man with calloused hands and a tender heart, someone who took pride in his work and cherished his family deeply. Losing him left an irreplaceable void in their lives. Stephen's death serves as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers in industrial environments where molten metals and heavy machinery are involved. It also highlights the critical responsibility employers have to safeguard their workers. Safety isn't just about ticking boxes or avoiding fines. It's about protecting human lives. This heartbreaking incident at Caterpillar's foundry underlines the need for rigorous enforcement of safety protocols and a culture that prioritizes the well-being of employees above all else. Fall protection systems like guardrails or restraint devices might seem like basic measures, but in hazardous settings, they are life-saving. Workplaces handling extreme heat and dangerous materials must be held accountable to the highest standards. Stephen's story is a powerful call to action to prevent such avoidable tragedies from happening again. Every worker deserves to return home safely to their loved ones at the end of the day. In honoring Stephen's memory, the industry must recommit to the principles of safety, vigilance, and respect for human life, because no job, deadline, or cost savings is worth a life lost. His passing is a sobering lesson that safety failures have real consequences, and that protecting workers is a responsibility no company can afford to neglect. In June 2017, something tragic and deeply unsettling happened inside a Walmart in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. Catherine Caraway, a 29-year-old woman from Texas, walked into the store on a Friday evening around 6 p.m. What should have been a quick and ordinary trip turned into a heartbreaking story that wouldn't be uncovered for 3 whole days. Catherine went into the family restroom, a locked bathroom stall, and never came out. But here's the question. How does someone stay inside a public restroom stall for 3 days without anyone noticing? Well, employees assumed the bathroom was out of order because the door was locked and they'd placed an "out of order" sign on it. So no one thought to check inside, and tragically, Catherine was left alone, unseen and unreachable. It wasn't until Monday afternoon, 3 days later, that a maintenance worker unlocked the door and made the devastating discovery. The delay shocked the community and raised serious questions about safety and awareness in public spaces. How could someone in distress be invisible for so long? What does that say about the way we care for each other? The autopsy revealed that Catherine died from cardiac arrhythmia caused by difluorothane toxicity. Difluorothane? What's that? It's a chemical found in common products like compressed air dusters. Those cans used to blow dust off your keyboard or electronics. Unfortunately, some people inhale these chemicals to get high, a dangerous form of substance abuse known as huffing. Investigators found several empty cans of these air dusters in Catherine's vehicle, suggesting she was likely using them shortly before her death. This is the sad part. Huffing may seem like a quick escape, but it's incredibly risky. Difluorothane interferes with the heart's normal rhythm and can cause sudden cardiac arrest, even in otherwise healthy people. Catherine's death shows just how deadly this practice can be. Police found no evidence of foul play or criminal activity. The death was ruled accidental, no villain, no crime, just a tragic accident. But that doesn't make it any less heartbreaking. It also raises broader concerns about addiction, mental health, and how communities and businesses can better support people struggling with these issues. And here's another question. How can someone be inside a locked bathroom stall in a busy store for days without being noticed? It's a chilling reminder of how easy it is for people who are suffering, whether from addiction, mental illness, or loneliness, to go unseen and unsupported. Catherine's story shines a light on that invisibility and urges us all to think harder about safety and compassion in our communities. Her death isn't just a sad accident, it's a call to action. It highlights the urgent need for greater awareness of inhalant abuse, better mental health support, and improved safety protocols in public places, especially ones serving families and vulnerable individuals. In the end, Catherine Caraway's story is heartbreaking. A young woman lost her life in a place that should have been safe. It reminds us how fragile life can be and how important it is to notice the people around us. No one should be left alone and unseen when they need help most. It seemed like just another breezy Monday evening in Queens. The hustle of rush hour was in full swing, people slipping into their routine post-work zombie modes, earbuds in, eyes glazed over, and dreams of dinner dancing in their heads. Among them was 51-year-old Edward Leonard, bartender, friend, and all-around good guy, heading home after a day's work, likely thinking of nothing more than beating the crowd onto the Manhattan-bound F train. But Edward had no clue that this seemingly ordinary ride would turn into something far more horrific, and ultimately his last. At around 6:45 p.m. on May 15, 2023, Edward attempted to board the F train at the Kew Gardens Union Turnpike station. The doors were closing, but like many of us have done before, he made a last-second dash. After all, nobody wants to wait another 8 minutes, right? What happened next, however, was anything but routine. Witnesses say Leonard's clothing, or possibly even his arm, got caught in the doors just as the train began to move. In a moment of panic, he banged on the side of the train, trying to get someone's attention, but the conductor didn't see him. The F train kept moving, completely unaware of the human being trapped on its side. Edward was dragged roughly 60 feet along the platform. "He got dragged by the train car," said Bernice Maitland, a horrified witness who had just exited the same train. "I was frantic. I was crying." She later added that Leonard was still breathing when she saw him lying on the platform, bloodied, missing a shoe, and battered beyond recognition. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Edward Leonard was pronounced dead shortly after at Jamaica Hospital. The cause? Blunt force trauma. Now, here's where things start to get murky and truly bizarre. There were no surveillance cameras on that part of the platform. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts. Some said it was his arm. Others said it was his coat. One source close to the investigation claimed Leonard might have been intoxicated, while co-workers noted he was on medication for chronic back pain. The MTA immediately questioned the train crew and ran drug and alcohol tests, but no foul play or driver negligence was confirmed. The train was one of the MTA's newer models, the R160, known for improved safety measures. Yet somehow, it failed to register that a person was stuck in the doors. The MTA later reminded the public that subway doors aren't like elevator doors. They won't pop back open just because something's wedged in. In the wake of the incident, the MTA referenced their safety data. In 2012 alone, 141 people were struck by trains, 55 fatally. A pilot program had been proposed to install platform screen doors. Think of those glass doors in Asian subways, but it's unclear if that would have helped in Edward's case. What makes Edward's death so bizarre is that it wasn't a case of someone falling onto the tracks, or even intentional harm. It was something most New Yorkers have done at least once, trying to squeeze through subway doors at the last minute, and it cost him everything. Edward Leonard wasn't just another name in a tragic headline. He was a bartender at the Cambria Hotel in Chelsea, known for being generous to a fault. He would literally give somebody the shirt off of his back, said his close friend Judy Miller. He was a really generous man. And though the city kept moving that night, those who knew Edward were stopped in their tracks. He was loved, he was appreciated, and his death, strange, sudden, and senseless, reminds us all to slow down, stay safe, and never underestimate the ordinary moments that can shift into tragedy in a heartbeat. If you've ever spent time in a gym, you know there's a unique kind of respect reserved for those who push the limits, the ones stacking plates like pancakes and making it look almost effortless. Justin Vicky was one of those people. A well-known fitness influencer based in Bali, he was admired not just for his impressive physique, but for his genuine passion for motivating others. With over 30,000 followers on Instagram, he wasn't just showing off gains. He was sharing guidance, encouragement, and a love for the grind. But in July 2023, the fitness community was hit hard with devastating news. Justin had died in a freak weightlifting accident that no one saw coming. It happened at the Paradise Bali Gym, a place where he trained regularly and inspired many. That day, he attempted a squat with 210 kilograms on his shoulders. That's about 450 pounds. A serious lift, even for seasoned athletes. As he lowered into the squat, something went wrong. He lost balance, and the barbell, that enormous load, came crashing down on the back of his neck. A spotter was there, but the sheer weight and angle were unforgiving. Justin fell backward, and the impact caused a fatal neck injury, compressing vital nerves that affected his heart and lungs. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery, but tragically he didn't make it. The news spread fast, not just in Bali but around the world. Fellow gym-goers, fans, and influencers shared tributes and condolences, mourning someone who seemed almost larger than life. The gym released a heartfelt statement, calling him more than a trainer or athlete. He was a mentor, a brother, a beacon of strength, and honestly, by all accounts, that wasn't an exaggeration. Justin wasn't just about lifting heavy. He was about lifting people up, helping others find confidence, stay disciplined, and embrace the fitness journey with positivity and grit. He embodied the spirit of the fitness world at its best, passionate, supportive, and humble despite his own strength. His loss wasn't just felt by those who knew him. It shook an entire online and offline community that looked up to him for daily motivation. His death raised serious conversations in the fitness world about safety, spotting, and knowing your limits. Heavy lifting is no joke. Even the strongest bodies can falter when things go wrong. His story is a painful reminder that while striving to be your best is admirable, safety should never take a back seat. Gym culture often celebrates pushing past limits, but sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step back and assess the risk. Justin Vicky's legacy now carries a sobering message alongside all the inspiration. Respect the weight, respect your body, and never take the process for granted. It was the tail end of 2014, just after the holiday chaos, and like many parents, Veronica Rutledge found herself at Walmart in Hayden, Idaho, doing some post-Christmas shopping. She wasn't just any mom, though. Veronica was a 29-year-old nuclear scientist, intelligent, responsible, and deeply loved by her family. She also happened to be a legal gun owner with a concealed carry permit, something not uncommon in her community. That day, she brought her toddler son along for the quick errand. He was just 2 years old, small enough to ride in the front of the shopping cart while she navigated the aisles, likely looking for deals or picking up everyday essentials. What happened next was the kind of thing that seems like it belongs in a darkly ironic cautionary tale, except it was painfully, tragically real. While in the electronics section, Veronica turned her attention away for just a moment. Her purse, which was designed for concealed carry, rested in the cart within reach of her son. Inside the purse was a loaded 9mm handgun, a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, one of the most popular handguns for self-defense. In the blink of an eye, her toddler managed to unzip the purse, reach in, and pull the trigger. One shot was fired. It struck Veronica in the head, killing her instantly. The store fell into stunned silence as people scrambled to understand what had just happened. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but there was nothing they could do. The news rippled outward, first through the town, then across the country. A child had accidentally shot and killed his own mother in a Walmart. It was shocking, heartbreaking, and surreal. Veronica's husband, Dalton Rutledge, wasn't with them at the time, but he arrived shortly afterward, likely in disbelief and horror. The couple had been visiting family for the holidays and were well known in their community. Dalton later described his wife as a brilliant woman, an amazing person, a dedicated mother, someone who had grown up around guns and knew how to handle them safely. But that's part of what made the incident so deeply unsettling. Veronica was the kind of person who took safety seriously. She didn't flaunt her firearm. She carried it in a purse designed specifically to keep it hidden and secure. But toddlers are curious, fast, and unpredictable, and in those few seconds of innocent exploration, tragedy struck. The story caught national attention, not because it was sensational, but because it raised serious questions about gun safety, about how easily things can go wrong, and about the heartbreaking fact that being responsible doesn't always mean being immune to accidents. It ignited debates about whether concealed carry purses are really safe around children, whether guns should ever be carried into stores, and what can be done to prevent this kind of accident from happening again. In the aftermath, the family was left grieving not only for the loss of Veronica, but also for the unimaginable weight the young boy would someday have to carry, even if he was far too young to understand what had happened. It's the kind of story that forces people to stop and think, not just about policy or rights, but about the very real human cost of a single misstep. There's no punchline here, no ironic twist to wrap it up, just a heartbreaking moment in a Walmart aisle. A moment that shattered a family, shook a community, and served as a sobering reminder that safety isn't just about good intentions. Sometimes it's about anticipating the unthinkable and realizing just how quickly life can change. It was a typical Monday rush hour in Queens, commuters hustling home, earbuds in, and eyes glued to their phones. For 48-year-old Heriberto Quintana, It seemed like just another routine stop at the Roosevelt Avenue Jackson Heights station. Maybe he was thinking about dinner, maybe just eager to get home. Either way, he had no idea this would be his last subway ride. As the clock ticked toward 4:45 p.m., the station was packed with New Yorkers doing what New Yorkers do best, minding their business and hoping the train wasn't delayed. Heriberto was standing on the northbound F train platform when the unexpected happened. A verbal spat with another man escalated fast. Now, we all know subway scuffles are basically part of the NYC starter pack. Elbow room? Rare? Personal space? Non-existent. But what began as words quickly spiraled into a full-blown physical altercation with a 50-year-old man. No one knows what started it. Was it an accidental bump? A dirty look? Or the age-old headphone volume dispute? The cause is still fuzzy. But within seconds, chaos erupted on the platform. As the train barreled into the station, tragedy struck. Heriberto either slipped or was pushed, and he fell off the platform and onto the tracks. In front of dozens of horrified commuters, he was struck by the incoming train. Screams echoed through the underground tunnel as panicked witnesses called 911. Within minutes, NYPD and emergency crews swarmed the scene. What they found was grim. Heriberto was discovered pinned beneath the train, suffering from severe trauma. He was immediately transported to Elmhurst Hospital Center, but sadly, it was too late. He was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The exact details of how Heriberto fell, whether it was a tragic misstep or a fatal shove, remained unclear. The man involved in the fight was taken into custody, but police were still piecing together what happened. There was no immediate indication of intent, and as the investigation continued, questions hung in the air. Meanwhile, subway service across Queens descended into chaos. Several lines experienced delays for hours. As crews worked the scene and investigators gathered evidence, photos of the incident site flooded social media, showing yellow police tape, emergency lights, and stunned passengers trying to process what had just happened. What makes this case so bizarre isn't just the horror of the moment, but the randomness of it all. Two men meet on a platform. A moment of tension flares up, and in less than a minute, one of them is dead. No robbery, no weapons, just a split-second scuffle in the wrong place at the worst possible time. Videos of the aftermath went viral online, sparking fierce debates about subway safety, mental health, and the unpredictable tension that simmers beneath New York's streets. Some called for more law enforcement presence, others for better platform barriers, anything to prevent another senseless tragedy like this one. But behind the headlines and hashtags was a man who mattered. Heriberto Quintana was a Queens resident, a father, and a neighbor. His family later spoke out, describing him as kind, hardworking, and someone who never went looking for trouble. He didn't deserve this, his cousin told reporters. He just wanted to get home like everyone else. And that's the haunting part. He could have been any of us. In a city that never sleeps and barely pauses, Heriberto's story is a chilling reminder that life can change, or end, in a blink. Yet, even in that darkness, his loved ones held on to hope that his story would lead to safer platforms and better protections for millions who ride the rails every day. Rest in peace, Heriberto. Your ride may have ended, but your story rolls on. In today's world of social media, where everyone wants to capture the perfect moment and share it instantly, some risks are just not worth taking. A tragic example of this happened in Houston, where a teenager named DeLeon Alonzo Smith lost his life while trying to take a selfie with a loaded gun. The story is heartbreaking and serves as a harsh reminder about the dangers of careless behavior, especially when firearms are involved. DeLeon was only 19 years old when he decided to pose with a gun for a Snapchat photo. According to reports, he believed the gun was unloaded, but sadly, it was not. While trying to take the picture, the gun discharged, and he was shot in the throat. The wound was fatal, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. This devastating accident shocked the community and highlighted a growing problem: the reckless use of firearms combined with the desire to capture attention on social media platforms. It might be tempting to wonder why anyone would risk their life for a selfie, but this incident is not isolated. Over the years, there have been numerous cases of people, especially young individuals, getting injured or even killed while handling guns for the sake of photos or videos. Social media culture often pushes people to go to extreme lengths to gain likes, followers, or online fame, sometimes without fully considering the consequences. The allure of appearing cool or tough with a firearm in hand can be strong, especially among teenagers and young adults. Unfortunately, many underestimate how dangerous guns are, or they mistakenly believe they know how to handle them safely. DeLeon's story is a tragic example of what can happen when this confidence turns into fatal carelessness. Authorities and safety experts emphasize that guns should never be treated as props or toys. Handling firearms requires respect, training, and a constant awareness of safety rules. The National Safety Council and other organizations have long promoted education on gun safety, urging gun owners and those around them to follow strict protocols. Always assume a gun is loaded, never point it at anything you don't intend to shoot, and keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to fire. What makes DeLeon's story even more significant is how it connects to the wider conversation about social media's impact on behavior. Platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok encourage users to capture dramatic, eye-catching moments, sometimes leading to risky stunts or dangerous trends. The desire for instant validation can cloud judgment, especially in younger, more impressionable users who might not fully grasp the potential consequences. While social media itself is not to blame, it certainly influences how people act and what they choose to share online. The pressure to be noticed, to go viral, or to appear a certain way can lead to poor decisions, especially when combined with other risky elements like firearms. DeLeon Alonzo Smith's death is a heartbreaking reminder that some actions have irreversible consequences. It's a call to action for parents, educators, and communities to talk openly about the dangers of guns and the importance of safe behavior, both online and offline. It's also a push for social media platforms to continue developing ways to promote responsible content and discourage dangerous trends. In the end, no selfie, no matter how impressive, is worth risking your life for. DeLeon's story serves as a sobering lesson about respect. Respect for life, for safety, and for the power of the choices we make every day. It's a tragic loss, but hopefully, it can inspire others to think twice before handling guns recklessly or seeking attention in unsafe ways. Back in December 2012, in Houston, Texas, what started as an ordinary night at a Walmart turned into a tragic and deeply troubling event. Shelley Marie Frey, a 27-year-old mother of two, found herself at the center of a deadly encounter that would raise questions about law enforcement, use of force, and the complicated role of security officers in retail spaces. The story begins inside the Walmart store, where loss prevention officers suspected Shelley and two companions of shoplifting. Whether the suspicion was justified or not, the situation escalated quickly. Shelley and her friends attempted to leave the store, but things didn't go as planned. An off-duty Harris County Sheriff's deputy named Lewis Campbell, who was working as a private security officer, was called to intervene. Campbell was not on official duty with the sheriff's office at the time, but his presence would soon change the course of the night. According to reports, as Shelley tried to escape, she struck Campbell with her purse and ran to a vehicle waiting nearby. Deputy Campbell pursued the vehicle, and as it began to drive away with him partially inside, he fired his gun, hitting Shelley in the neck. She was later found deceased at a nearby apartment complex, an outcome that shocked many and ignited a firestorm of debate. This wasn't just another shoplifting case gone wrong. It raised critical questions about when and how force should be used, especially deadly force, and who is authorized to make those life or death decisions. Shelley was a mother. 2 children were reportedly in the vehicle at the time. Was it necessary for Campbell to shoot? That's what her family and many others wanted to know. In the aftermath, Shelley's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Walmart, Deputy Campbell, and the security company employing him. They argued that the use of deadly force was excessive and unjustified, especially given the presence of children and the nature of the alleged crime. On the flip side, Campbell and his supporters maintained that he acted in self-defense and within his rights as a security officer and a law enforcement professional, even though he was off duty. The Harris County District Attorney's Office investigated the shooting, but ultimately decided not to press charges against Campbell. That decision left many feeling unsettled and added fuel to ongoing conversations about police accountability and the use of force. What makes this case even more complex is that it wasn't an isolated incident. Around the same time, there were other shootings involving off-duty officers and suspected shoplifters at Walmart stores in the Houston area. These repeated events sparked wider debates about Walmart's policies, the roles of off-duty officers in retail security, and the broader challenges around race, power, and policing in America. This tragedy forces us to think hard about the balance between protecting property and protecting human life, especially in communities where trust between citizens and law enforcement is fragile. It reminds us that behind every headline is a real person with a story, a family left grieving, questions left unanswered, and a society struggling to find justice. So, while this story started with a simple suspicion of shoplifting, it ended with a powerful and painful reminder of the serious consequences when authority, fear, and split-second decisions collide. Shelley Marie Frey's death remains a sobering example of the need for better policies, clearer boundaries, and greater accountability in situations that can so quickly spiral out of control.